Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first weekend review. I'm Totally Speedway's publisher and editor, Daniel Powell, and last night there's plenty of action across the country from the West Coast all the way into the East Coast here, and also in America too. So what I'm going to be doing is just recapping everything, both here and abroad. So we had a Speedway Grand Prix round overseas, and we've also had a number of Aussies flying the flag over in America too. So we've got James McFadden and Ian Madsen and Scott Pagookie from South Australia. So what I'm going to do first is just share it, and then we'll get into everything. So how awesome is it to have Speedway back here in Australia? It seems like the off season is, gets really longer. It doesn't really seem that longer, even though it's, we certainly got a lot of races overseas, but also, here in Australia it feels a bit longer, but it's still pretty short sort of thing. So what I'm going to do, just going to share it now on my personal page, and then we can get stuck straight into the show. Thanks once again, everyone, for tuning in. I've just done my morning exercise, and then to be able to come here and come straight to work and be able to bring you the Speedway results. So I'll be doing this throughout the season. Last Friday, I did the weekend preview. I've got the Q&As, you've got the conversation pieces, all those things have been remaining the same, but it's about a new method to get the word out of here. Totally Speedway's got a massive audience, and this is what we're going to utilise through Facebook Live. And the support that I've been getting from this has been outstanding. Probably people getting sick of seeing my face, but a lot of people might not even know what I look like. They've heard the name, they've heard the brand, but they've never actually spoken, and never actually seen me. So this is a way to get my not so pretty face out there. So what we'll do now, we'll just recap all the racing from the weekend. Thanks for people for tuning in. I've got a stack of information here, notes that I've compiled both this morning from the races around the country. Thanks Tony Blanche, an AMCA national racer, for tuning in. Andrew Priolo, hopefully you have a big season in the 410 sprint cars. The 1982 National Super Sedan champion John Cartwright tuning in. We've got Bo Doyle, we've got Tom Payett. So thanks guys for tuning in. Hopefully you can tune in with that. First things first, late last week it was announced that Garth Tander is going to be having a run in a sprint car at Sydney's Valvoline Raceway tomorrow. So that's going to be him. Garth's a huge Speedway fan. He's originally from Perth in Western Australia. He's got close affiliation with the Cricket Motorsports team. He paid when Shane passed away last year. Garth put a tribute on his HRT car. So now Garth is back with Gary Rogers Motorsport. He is now, with obviously a close affiliation with Valvoline, being his sponsor of the GRM team, and also Sydney's Valvoline Raceway. He's going to be doing some laps. It's the first time that Garth's ever got behind the wheel of a sprint car. He's tried to get into it in the past, but it's never actually happened. I remember doing an interview in the early 2000s when he was at Valvoline Raceway back in the day, and it was then with then-girlfriend Leanne Ferrier, who's now obviously Tander. And he spoke about actually his love for Speedway and how he's really keen to get behind the wheel. And 15 or so years later, Garth Tander's going to be stepping behind the wheel of a sprint car for the first time. So that's going to be awesome to see, and it's great to see that V8 supercar drivers are getting the cross-promotion with this sport, and that's what we need. So kudos for Valvoline Raceway and the team for getting that happening. So what we'll do, we'll get into last night's results from Sydney's, Toowoomba's Valvoline Raceway in Queensland. Toowoomba's High-Tech, it's early on a Sunday morning. I'll say that again, the joys of live video. Toowoomba's High-Tech Oil Speedway, too many oils going around, in Queensland. Last night they had the opening round of the Ultimate Sprint Car Championship for Queensland, and it ended up seeing Brent Kratzmann pick up his first win. Brent, it's been a guy that's been knocking on the door for a win for a long time. He's been racing for around about 15 years now in the sprint cars, on and off. He's very busy away from the Speedway, very successful businessman in his own right. But last night he was able to pick up the win. So a huge win for Brent, and it shows persistence. He's got new crew chief Drew Gessner. So that's the younger brother of Cameron Gessner. So he's got him swinging the spanners on a full-time basis this year. So yeah, and Brent came away with the win. He inherited the lead late in the race when Robbie Farr, who I had tipped to go on and win, and many people would have, was leading comfortably up until a lap car had spun in front of him on lap 26, so about 4 laps to go, and he had no way to avoid but to spin the car to avoid contact. Then it brings the rule to come down to, okay, the spin when it's not really your fault. That was, I think, that type of rule. This is a classic example where, you know, if a card's spun in front of you and you've taken evasive action to avoid it, then I don't think you should go to the rear of the field. But the rules are the rules. But, you know, on this occasion, a bit Robbie on the arse, unfortunately. And so that put him to the back of the bus, and he was able to charge home in 11th place. But obviously it was a win that slipped through his fingers, but taking nothing away from Brent Kratzmann. Brent was fast all night. He was running at the front of the field. He was able to hold down second strongly. He had good pace and was able to be there in the end with that. And yeah, as you're saying, Hayden, well, silly rule cost Robbie the win. Yep, definitely, that's what I said. But rules are rules, and it's probably not going to be it's not the first time. It certainly won't be the last. So till that rule changes, but if it's not, but it's the same for everyone, regardless of who you are. So, but the positive out of this, Brent Kratzmann, guy, his family's put a lot into the sport through Kratzmann caravans and all those things over the years. With that, so Brent, top win. Filling the minor placings on the podium was local Peter Lack and then Mega Fuels Queensland number 5 car, so he had a strong run on home soil to bring it home in second. Luke Oldfield got his second podium finish in as many weeks. So, yeah, he ended up third. And, yeah, as people are saying here, Cody was fast as well. Yeah, Cody Morosky, he quick-timed and he was able to, yeah, he was unlucky in the feature. As you're saying, Brady, totally agree. Still can't take it away from Kratzy. Drew Gessner had the thing rolling around. Yep, totally agree, Brady, and that sort of said, before. So, sorry, just bear with me. I'll just get the light. I've got motion lights here in the office, so when I go away. So, so as I said, it was unlucky for Robbie, but can't take any away from Brent Kratzmann. It was a top win. It was great to see a first-time winner, and just the emotion you could see there when he was getting interviewed by Betty Bishop post-race, just of relief, because Brent's been up there, knocking on the door for a win. So he's not always on the podium, but he does have good nights where he gets on the podium. But hopefully this is the start of what's going to be a consistent season. So he's certainly got some good people around him and top-class equipment. So outside the podium finishes last night at Toowoomba's High Tech Oils Speedway was Andrew Shirley. Andrew won the previous weekend, the season opener, at Brisbane's Archerfield Speedway. And Jaden Peacock, the former Australian Junior Sedan champion, put in a career best drive. He's been running sprint cars for just under 2 seasons now. He ended up qualifying 4th, running in the top 5, and he was able to come away with a top 5 result. So a huge confidence boost for Jaden. It's been a tough run for the kid, showing plenty of promise, and is now hopefully can be the start of a great season. The best of the New South Wales cars, or the visiting interstate drivers, was Mick Saller from Sydney. He ended up 6th, so that was a career best finish for Mick, so well done, mate. 7th was Sean Dobson. Sean Dobson probably would have qualified directly into the feature. However, he had some bad luck in his final heat race. He was running away with the win up until the engine cut out, a mystery engine gremlin that cut out. They were able to solve it. He was able to take his place in the B main. He was able to go on and win that. Started from position 17 in the feature race and came home in 7th on a track that was really fast, and everyone was motoring on a similar pace, but Sean was able to pick off 10 positions and bring it home in 7th. So well done there, Sean. Lockie McHugh, who last weekend at Toowoomba had the feature race in control up into a flat tyre, dashed his hopes. He ended up finishing 8th. Danny Reedy, in his first appearance for the season, he was driving for the Mitchell Motorsport team. He ended up in 9th, and Glenn Sutherland from South Australia, he was able to bring it home in 10th. But that was in the 14 sprint car, so it was a great start. Great to see Brent Kratzmann come away with a win. Certainly a deserving win, and it's great to see a new winner and people like that really toil away and really put a lot of effort. So it's great. So we've got there. So in the support classes, we had Formula 500s. So they had their opening round of the KRE Race Engines Formula 500 Championship Series. And so that was won, and surprise, surprise, current Australian champion Liam Williams ended up coming away with a win. So Liam was once again unbeatable. It's back-to-back wins now for Liam. It's certainly an ominous sign for the rest of the season, but he's certainly in strong touch and certainly showing no signs of slowing down. In second place was Ryan McNamara, so that's the young son of Kenny Mack and KRE Race Engines. So Ryan had a strong finish to run in second. Tristan Johnson, another youngster, brought it home in third. He had a bit of good luck on his fortune. He was able to take away snare third place in the latter stages. Graham Williams, who's a guy that's is a bit of a veteran or a bit of an elder statesman, we would say. Graham, love your work. He was running third and looked set for third place up until he had a fuel issue late in the race, and that cost him the podium. But yeah, Graham Williams, he's a guy that's dabbled in racing sprint cars before. He's also spent many seasons crewing for Danny Reedy. So yeah, but Graham's got back behind the wheel, and yeah, he's doing okay in the Formula 500s. And fifth place was Thomas Parrington. So he racked up the top 5 finishes, and this is his second season, Thomas, so he done really well. In the junior Formula 500s, they don't compete for feature race, but they run heat races. Locals and local friends, Nicholas Well and Tali Appelt, they both battled it out. Nick was one of the form drivers. He's got 2 wins he did. Tali won the other, and overall, due to Nick dropping a heat race, Tali picked up the win overall for the points. And yeah, Taylor Prosser was in second. That's the daughter of Aaron Prosser. That's the current Australian Mod Lights champion. And third place was Jai Corbett. That's the young son of sprint car racer and former Australian production sedan champion Andrew Corbett. So he was running on the night in the 14 sprint cars, but Jai was in the junior Formula 500. So it's awesome to see. It was only a small field for the juniors, but it's great to see that they've got a stepping stone for that. So and then in the modified sedans, they completed the program on the night. Aidan Raymont, the current Victorian South Australian champion, he's obviously a former Australian champion. He's from Gympie, and he ended up getting the win. He was able to take the feature race win ahead of Toowoomba locals Shane McDonald and Ronnie Pimenta. Pimenta was one of the favourites, but the best he could do on the night was third place. Greg Walling, another former Australian champion, he ended up 4th, and 5th was Nathan McDonald. So it's a bit good to see the McDonald brothers back. So guys that are really past champions in their state and podium finishes in national titles, so they certainly are going to be ones to watch out for when they get regular miles under their belt. So it was a great hit out for the modified sedans. Lee Volk, another one of the locals, he ended up 6th. We had Jordan Bravino, I think that's how you say his name. He'd come back recently from a 12-month suspension, and he ended up 7th in the feature. And big kudos must go to Kent Menzies, who ended up 8th in the feature race. Kent came down from Mackay, so a long drive for him, and he was able to bring home 8th. Kent's a guy that's raced wingless before, and he's recently stepped back into the modifieds, and he's doing really well. So good luck, Kent, and great to see you to come down, make a huge effort to come down from Mackay. So I've got a lot of people tuning in. Thanks. We've got Brian Dixon, Tim Ford, Dane Rudolph. So there's a blast from the past. Julie Carew, Robert Hoey, Jake Massara. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. What we'll do, we've got the Brian Rose yesterday. So I was saying about the Brian Rose that was over 2 nights. Well, it was 2 days / nights. They were running over 2 days, but it's going to be running over. It was just the one this season. So apologies for making that mistake on Friday. With that, the win at the end of it. So the Brian Rose Memorial and the RD 100 at Ellenbrook Speedway. So it ended up Jamie Oldfield picking up his 9th win in this prestigious event. So Jamie wasn't the fastest in the heat races, but he picked off his points and he was able to qualify 4th for the feature race. He got to the lead around about lap 7. So Brad McClure, the 3-time Australian champion, and finished 3rd in the last season's Brian Rose Memorial, he ended up putting it on pole. He led the early stages, but was unable. Had a battle there with Jamie Alford, but was unable to hold him off. And Alford was able to go on and win his 9th win. So the winningest driver, and certainly continues his reign, and also his mantle as one of the country's best street stock drivers. That's without question, but also one of the most versatile drivers across all forms of speedway. So it's awesome to see the Oldfield name in winning lights, and with the youngsters that are coming through, I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. So Brad McClure, who put in a great drive, finished 3rd last season. He ended up 2nd yesterday. Hopefully comes back next year and he can go one better. So Brad done really well, and obviously he's on his honeymoon with his new wife Tamika. So you guys, great result for you guys. And running 2nd to Jamie Oldfield's nothing to be ashamed of, but I know Brad, being Brad, he'd be disappointed in not getting the win because he races to win. So, but still a great result nonetheless. Completing the podium in 3rd was another local in Daniel Amazuri. He's a 2-time winner of the Brian Rose Memorial. He ended up picking up the win, picking up a 3rd place finish on the podium. Matt Amato, who battled early, he was always in podium contention throughout the 30-lap feature race. He ended up 4th. Jason Oldfield, he's a former winner of the Brian Rose Memorial. He ended up finishing 5th. Peter Herbert, I'd rate Peter as one of the most underrated drivers, street stock drivers in WA. He started from position 11 and he brought it home in 6th, so a great result. In 7th was Carl Pickersgill. I think that's how you say his name. And just got to step away for that second. Awesome live footage. So Carl Pickersgill. So he's the partner of Veronica McCann. And he had his last street stock run. What a lot of people don't know about Carl. He's ran wingless sprints before. He's also a very accomplished downhill mountain biker. So those guys that run down ski slopes when the snow's not there, of course, jumping from rocks to rocks. So he's very accomplished in that field. But he stepped into Speedway, back into Speedway, just having fun with the street stock, and then his wife, Veronica McCann, who will go on and race her late model this season. So that was Carl's last run for the off-season. So he ended up in 7th. Peter Hutchins, he ended up in 8th. Peter Dower, debuting a new car, finished in 9th. And Ethan Geneve, I think that's how you say the name. Ethan, he completed the top 10 finishes. So certainly a great event for that. In the support categories, you had the production sedans, and Warren Favel ended up picking up the feature race win. 2nd was Wayne Livingston. 3rd was Leon Wood. 4th was Jaden McCoosh. And 5th was Shane Duberlin. I think that's how you say this name. Hopefully I'm saying this right, so apologies if I don't get it right. And then you had junior sedans broken into 2 groups, the top stars and the new stars. In the top stars was Blake Ivanhoe, I think that's how you say it. He ended up picking up the feature race win. Luke Malcolm, he was 2nd, and 3rd was Blake Webb. So congratulations to those top 3 finishes. In the juniors new stars, Bo Oldfield, he's the son of Jason Oldfield. He ended up driving away with a win. So it was another win for the Oldfield. You had his uncle Jamie picking up the win in the Brian Rose, and then young Bo, who's obviously a newcomer, to junior sedans, picking up the win in the New Stars. Jasmine Arnold and Matthew Thompson completed the podium in second and third place, respectively. So that was the Brian Rose. This morning we had the Speedway Grand Prix, and it's looking pretty good for our own Jason Doyle, who's now 21 points clear in the Speedway Grand Prix series point standings. The last Australian to win the Speedway Grand Prix championship was Chris Holder. He won that back in 2012. But Jason Doyle, who last year had his hopes dashed through injury when he was really one of the form riders. So last night at the Stockholm Speedway Grand Prix, so that was last night this morning, he ended up finishing third, so he collected 18 points on the night, and that has now given him 21 points clear in the overall point standings. So the win for this round was Matty Zagard. Bartosz Zamarik was second, and behind Jason Doyle, who finished third, was Peter Kliederman in fourth. Chris Holder probably had his best run. He's been struggling of late, and he's the first person to admit that. He ended up collecting 9 points. He made the semis, so that's a win in his own right because he's been struggling so far this year. And he was eliminated out of the semis, so he didn't make the top two from his semis. So in the point standings, Jason Doyle's got 132 points. He's 21 points clear. Second place is Patrick Dudek. I think I haven't heard of this guy before. He ended up second. He's currently second in the points. Matej Janowski, he's third. Usually I leave this to the commentators on the TV who have got this down pat, but now I'm under the pressure of I've got to pronounce these names, so hopefully I get it right. Fourth is Freddie Lindgren. Fifth was Emerald Sudanov. So they're the top five in the Speedo Grand Prix point standings. 10th is Chris Holder, so he's way out of calculations. But we're going into the next round. Jason Doyle that's the next round. It's going to be the Torum Speedo Grand Prix. That's on October 7th. Jason, if he has a great run, he will be on track to wrap up the championship there and then. So how awesome would it be to have Doyle? Like, it'd be awesome to be crowned the champion at this round, but it'd be also awesome to do it at the grand final in Melbourne later next month. So that would be cool, but hopefully he can pick up enough points. So so we've got that. Also, there was a number of practice sessions held last night. So we had Valvoline Raceway, so they had a lot of sprint cars, late models, speed cars, you name it, micro sprints. There was also about 3 V8 Dirt Modifieds there, so it was pretty awesome to see V8 Dirt Modifieds getting around Valvoline Raceway, and hopefully this is the start. There's 3 of them there, so hopefully there can be a couple more, and I'm all for them holding a New South Wales title there in a round of the 5-star Dirt Series. So that would be something that would be pretty cool to have the V8 Dirt Modifieds back, but they got an opportunity. There's about 3 of them. There was Matt Ferry there and a couple of other cars that I didn't know. Going around there having a drive, so it was great to see them. So in the sprint cars, you had a ton of drivers. So the fastest on the night was Grant Tunks. He didn't do too many sessions, but he was able to go out there and record the fastest time. Brendan Scorgi, he was second fastest. Thomas Jeffrey was third fastest overall. Alex Orr was fourth, and Steve Cornt was fifth. You had a ton of new drivers that were making their debut, or their first hit-outs in sprint cars. You had Daniel Cassidy. He stepped into sprint cars this season, along with his sister, Jess Cassidy. Jess obviously had a run late last year, but she stepped out there in the first time. So then we got Darren Salmon. So he's another one. He's a former Australian Lightning Sprint champion. Last season he spent some time in speed cars, but now he's gone and running the sprint cars. So Darren's got a close affiliation with the Lansvale Smash Repairs organisation. As many people would know, that is Trevor Ashby and Steve Reed. They were in the supercars for many years. They were top privateers. So Darren's got a close affiliation with them, and he's yellow. He always sticks with that yellow, and that's done by Lansvale Smash Repairs. So so we got that. So there's another Nikki Britton was out there, so she's the third generation racer, the granddaughter of six-time Australian sprint car champion, or 5 times, sorry, Australian sprint car champion and super modified champion Dick Britton. So that's awesome to see. She was out there. AJ Fairburn, don't know too much about this guy. So he's a new guy. He was running the N35 car. So I'll have to do some digging and see a bit more about him. Then we also had Jason Bates made a return to sprint car racing. So Jason's obviously been a leader in the wingless division for many seasons now. He picked up last season's catch-up New South Wales title win. Was one of the form drivers in New South Wales, won the club championship. But yeah, he stepped back into sprint cars. Jason debuted in sprint cars in the early 2000s, stepped away due to budget restraints, and has now come back. And yeah, he was back out there. We had the Valvoline Raceway debut for Dean Brindle. He's a New Zealand-based racer who races like at Western Springs and all those sort of places. So he made his first day. He was fairly quick straight off the bat. He was 6th fastest overall on the night in terms of points, or the cars that were carrying transponders. There were a number of transponders out there. We also had James Duckworth. He's back. Shane Sheedy, he was there. With that, and then. He was also sharing the car with DJ Raw. DJ Raw's recently announced during the off-season that he was stepping into speed cars, but he's also going to be dabbling back into sprint cars too. I've got Ben Griffin here. Hell yes, about New South Wales, Matt Ferry, Trevor Blanche, and David Blanche. Yep. Thanks, Ben, for filling in those remaining. I knew that Matt Ferry was out there, but I wasn't sure who the other two were. That's Trevor and David Blanche. So it was awesome to see there. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, Ben. It's appreciated. So. Got there. Luke Stritton, this is his second season. He was really happy with the car out there. It was fast. He commented that he had a lot of help with shocks, set of advice from Adrian Marr, an experienced racer and a former driver of that car. And yeah, so Luke's looking forward to a good season. Courtney O'Hare was out here with her car and Aaron, so he was having his first hit out. So it was just great to have the sprint cars back. Then you also had, there was speed cars. In the late models, you had Ben Nicastro, who had a car arrive on Monday, and he was back. He got out there having a shakedown run. It wasn't sign written yet, but he was getting it out there. Clayton Kime was also out there, and he was very fast. We had the late model debut for Darryl Kime, a long-time super sedan leader, sprint cars, and AMCA national racer, has stepped into late models, and he had his first hit out, so he's running under the number 22, so that's cool. I'll just grab that light, just bear with me. Sorry, I need like a stick or something to prod the light. So sorry about that. It just with the lighting, it just really affects it if the light's not above me. So yeah, so we've got that. Also Avalon. Yeah, so that's it from Valvoline Raceway from last night. Great, and they're kicking off their season this Saturday night, September 30. So that'd be awesome. Yesterday afternoon, we had Avalon Raceway. They had their practice. Jai O'Keefe, who's a contracted World Series sprint car driver this season, he had his first hit out. There was also Bobby Daly, who was also out there. So there was only a couple of sprint car drivers out there. We had Mick Parry, Todd Hobson, and a couple of others from the wingless. They're out there. Mick Parry having his first appearance since his big crash at the Australian title in the wingless sprints. That was at Carrick Speedway in Tasmania in the B main. So that it was back with a rebuilt car. And we had a number of speed car drivers too. Travis Mills, who was one of the form drivers in Victoria, was the form drivers in Victoria last season. I had Nick Parker, who's no slouch. He certainly goes strong. We had Ryan McKenna. So there's a guy that stepped out of, I think, mini sprints he was running. So he stepped into speed cars. His car looks amazing. Really, that looks really nice. We also had third generation racer Dylan Gent. Dylan Gent, so his dad is Peter Gent, a long-time Victorian-based speed car racer and former multiple South Australian champion. So Dylan's has a pedigree in speedway karts. His older sister, Amber, she raced the speed car sporadically last season. So yeah, Dylan. So hopefully, yeah, look forward to seeing Dylan and him progressing throughout. So yeah, so that was it for the practice sessions. Last night also we had Archfield Speedway in Brisbane. So they had the inaugural Queensland title for RSA Street Stockers. The win ended up going to Brendan Wakeman from New South Wales. He ended up coming away with a dominant win. He was in great form all night, and he backed that up in the feature. So that was he's won an ACT title before, but he's been right up there in the past. But yeah, so Brendan was thrilled to be able to come away with as the first winner of the Queensland title for the RSA Street Stockers. Current Australian champion Sean DeHoovey, that was in a brand new car. He chased hard throughout the feature race, but was unable to close in on Wakeman and had to settle for second. Veteran racer Shane Carlson completed the podium in third place. Jamie Smith finished just off the podium in fourth, so he done really well. He was really happy with his drive, but it was unable to hold off Carlson. There was also a Queensland title for RSA Junior Sedans. Casey O'Connell ended up picking the win as one of the locals there. Casey, who ran third in last season's SSA Junior Sedan state title, he was able to go, pick up the win and put his name on that trophy, the Queensland title for RSA Junior Sedans for the first time. Second place was Connor Reeves. Riley Smith was third, and fourth was Bodie Russ. I think that's how you say your name, so apologise for that if I've got it wrong. Please correct me if I'm saying these names wrong. By all means, pick me up. I'm more than happy to stand corrected. So yeah, so there was 2 Queensland titles last night at Archfield, so they were running one. In the wingless sprints, it was the opening round of the Ian Botcher Race Parts Club Championship, and it was Brant Chandler who came away with the win. So it was a victorious, triumphant return for Brant. Brant spent last season off, so due to budget restraints and doing some saving, but this year he's back and he's ready to tackle the full season. He was able to draw first blood, pick up the win, and yeah, it was a really impressive run. Paul Robinson ended up second, and third place was Cody O'Connell. So successful night for the O'Connell family with the Queensland title going the way of Casey. That's Cody's younger brother. Fourth place was Brad Keeler. So he was there, and Jeff Davey was fifth. Sixth place was Brian Dixon. Brian Dixon, he won a heat race earlier in the night. Brian, if you cast your mind back to about the mid-90s, there was a Queensland number 55 sprint car with LJ Hooker over it. That was Brian Dixon. So he ran that car. He's returned to the sport, and he's running in wingless sprints now, and he's proving that despite 20-odd years out of the seat, he's come back and being competitive. So it's great to have him back and great to have him as part of getting this all together. Joshua Drever, he ended up 7th on the night. So Joshua Drever, that was his debut in wingless. He's the son of Jason Drever, who's from Amca National, so he's running the Queensland number 30, same as his dad. So it's good to see another youngster, second generation racer coming through the ranks. And Glenn Wright, who was last season's form driver in Queensland, he had a tough start to the season. He DNF'd in the feature, so that's certainly going to hurt his chances, championship chases there. In other classes, we had the Lightning Sprint, so it was round 1 of the Everyday Finance Solutions Club Championship. And it was a disastrous start for a last season form driver, Kurt Wilson. Kurt Wilson, who's driving the David Van Vexel Speed Parts Australia car, was sidelined after the opening heat race due to an oil pressure issue. So that certainly wasn't the ideal start for Kurt, but no doubt that he will bounce back and be up the front and prove just why he's the current Australian champion, New South Wales champion. And so we've got that. So with Kurt out, obviously that was one of the favourites on the sideline. Keith Blatch, the president for the Queensland Lightning Sprint Racing Association, he ended up coming away with the win. Blatch is no slouch, a long-time Lightning Sprint racer, former Queensland champion. He ended up picking up the win. Dave Fanning, a 2-time Australian champion in the Lightning Sprints, he was able to fill second place, and Michael Gallagher was third. So Dave Fanning's running the second car for Michael Gallagher. In fourth place was Jeremy Hassel, so he's a former speed car racer and has spent recent seasons here in the Lightning Sprints. And rookie Jaden Mavers completed the top 5 finishes. So Jaden Mavers ran compacts last year. He's the brother of Nathan Mavers, who's current Australian number 3 or 4. I think he's straight number 4 in compact speed cars. And so Jaden stepped into the Lightning Sprints. In the Mod Lights, surprise, surprise, one of the form drivers, Terry Liebenveld, ended up picking up the feature race win. Brad Dawson was second and Scott Letfield was third. Dallas Zawinski, who you will see in V8 Jet Modifieds, he finished just off the podium in fourth, and completing the top 5 was former New South Wales champion Will Butler. So, yeah, so Terry's going to be juggling his time between V8 Jet Modifieds and Mod Lights, and I take it Dallas Zawinski is going to be doing the same. So, yeah, and then in the other support classes in the open sedans, the feature race went to Wayne Kirkman. The open sedan B went to Ben Robertson, and the Ford vs Holden vs Sigma went to Jason Walsh. So that completed the night, a low-key night at Archiefield Speedway. So, yeah. Then we had the Northern Territory Speedway kart titles was held at Darwin's Northline Speedway last night. In the modifieds, you had a lot of NT cars, but karts, but you also had a number of interstaters come in and really make an effort to support the event. So in the modifieds, New South Wales veteran, he's from the south coast of New South Wales, Neville Britton. He's been racing karts for 20 odd years now and showing no signs of slowing down. He ended up picking up the NT title. In the modifieds, he beat one of the form drivers in Brad Caneen. He was second for New South Wales. Darren Holt, an NT kart, he was third. Tony Brown and Tim Fry completed the top 5 finishes. They were all NT karts. In the Outlaws, it was Darren Holt. He picked up the win. Matt Gordon from Queensland was second. Another interstate of Brad Caneen from New South Wales was third. In the 125cc, Phil Perrott, he's from Queensland. He ended up coming away with the win. Aaron Moss was second. Tony Brown was third. Christy Driver was fourth, and Rebecca Pearce was fifth. So the two ladies, Christy and Rebecca, flying the flag. In the juniors, it was Heath Parker that picked up the win. Cooper Eddy ended up second. And the junior standards, Mark Haddo, Jack Hopkins, and Kristen Haddo were the top 3 finishing junior standards. So the Haddo family, they're from Caffin, which is 300 kilometres south of Darwin. So their dad, Luke, is the president for the Speedway Karting Association. And the sub-juniors, Harrison Turnbull was the front runner there, and that's just a domestic. That's just a whole lap sort of session, not really recognised as there, but still, it's great to see it. So well done for the NT club for hosting their titles, and great to have the results that I'm able to broadcast quickly. So I've got there. And then the final thing that we're going to do before I get off the air, I know everyone's waking up. You don't want to be waking up seeing me. I agree. But I've got to do what I've got to do, sort of thing. So in the US, so I'll just go and grab that light again. I need a prod or something. And in the US, we had yesterday, or last night, which was yesterday, that was Friday night. So we had the World of Outlaws. They're running the night before the 4 Crown Nationals. So that's a World of Outlaws run. That's at Eldora Speedway in Ohio. And it was the Steel City Outlaw, Tim Schafer, the 2010 Knoxville National champion. He ended up putting it on pole position and going on to defeat Donny Schatz to win the A-Main. So Donny Schatz had to settle for second, and third was Joey Saldana. In terms of the Aussies, there was only one there. It was Ian Madsen. He ended up finishing the A-Main in 13th place. Williams Grove, yesterday, it was, that's in Pennsylvania. It was the PA Posse, Greg Hodnett, who, came out here just last season for the first time in, 20 years. So he picked up the win. Lance DeWeets, who's incredibly consistent, he ended up second. And Lucas Wolf, another former Australian tourist, he ended up third. Our own James McFadden was strong early in the stages, fighting for podium contention. In terms of that, then when in the latter stages, dropped back to finish sixth, but still a strong result, and he's getting stronger and stronger. The PA Posse are no slouches, and for James to be holding his own there. So he ended up sixth. Then we had the Hockett McMillan Memorial, which is in Lucas Oil Speedway in Missouri, I think that is. And Sammy Swindell ended up picking up the win, so the veteran. Sam Habitate Jr. was second, and Blake Hahn was third. Our own, another Aussie in Scott Boguski from South Australia, he ended up finishing 8th. So a strong result for Scott up against some pretty tough competition. So yeah, so that's it, guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Really enjoyed doing this. Just giving you the results and just a rundown, just some more insights. So this can be a one-stop shop. So to get it done early, so that I can fill you with all the information. You get it early, sort of thing. So I'll be back. Maybe with conversations this week, just see how I go. Definitely the Q&A on Wednesday night at 7:30. So definitely be doing that. Then we'll have the Friday preview. That'll be on Friday afternoon. And obviously the weekend wrap again on Sunday. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Really excited about this season of just bringing you content in different ways. I know it's not the most professional, but I'm getting better at it. I'm learning more, and I'm excited. When you do what you love, you certainly make more efforts. So so with that, but thanks, guys, for tuning in. Really appreciate the support, and have a good week. Bring on the rest of the season, and I'll speak to you soon. Okay, thanks, guys. See ya.